Very, is it? No, it's all right. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Taco Tuesday. We're going to talk about fitness. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about all kinds of other stuff. I am Brandon Glass. I am a coach and a personal trainer and a fitness nutrition specialist, and physical therapist assistant. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Nick.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick. I hope everybody had a really good holiday weekend. Yeah, I'm Nick. I'm a little out of it today. I apologize. My allergies are very bad, and it kind of puts me in a fog.
Well, it's been a long weekend.
Yeah. But yeah, so I hope everybody's weekends were good. Lots of stuff. I have a lot of stuff. There we go. It's good enough.
All right. Why don't we jump in?
Sorry.
No worries. So today, it seems like a really appropriate topic. We're talking about self-care today.
And I think this is just as important for us as it is for everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's important to say, I think. But this is something that really bugs us, right, Nick? Self-care has become this like buzzword, and the advice now is like, 5 things you can do for your self-care. Practice yoga, drink green tea, try this new awesome workout. And then it's always like, splurge, have the milkshake, like do that, right? And like self-care might look like that sometimes, right? Those things they're not necessarily wrong, but as usual, we think we need to look a little bit deeper. And before we do that, before we like really jump into it, I want to ask, I want to know if anyone out there is like me and kind of falls into that trap where they use self-care as an excuse to do something that they sort of know is unhealthy and actually ends up creating guilt. That's kind of the cycle that happens to me. I'm like, no, I deserve this. It's my self-care. And then I'm like, I feel like crap. And I shouldn't have done that. It was a bad decision. It wasn't self-care.
Yeah. I fall into that quite often myself.
Right. You're totally not alone.
Yep.
We all do it sometimes, but I'm just wondering, who out there can relate. So if you're with us now or live, or if you're watching later, let us know. So, Nick, let's jump right in because this is a lengthy topic. This is pretty deep. So let's talk about some of the things you and I think talked about recently. What is the big question right off the bat? Is what is self-care?
Right. So, I think we have to reframe what the notion is, what is actually self-care, right? Like you just said it, but like we have to reframe or redefine it for ourselves. And maybe it's not even redefining, but it's like reminding ourselves that, that pint of ice cream at night might not be the best option. Like it might make you feel good, but just for a minute, right? So
sure.
So yeah, like with Brandon, I'm also curious, like how many people believe that self-care is treating yourself? Yeah. So, show of hands. It's a common thing. It's real. It's a real thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. But that idea to treat yourself is a common phrase when people think of self-care. So really, like, who treats themselves when they're feeling low or stressed out? Like
that's your go-to, right?
Yeah, it's an issue. Sugar's my real thing. But there are other ways of treating yourself too, right? So like, I know a lot of people will look into spa and or massage or whatever. But because of that, the phrase treat yourself, self-care, I think is seen as like, what kind of fluff can you buy yourself? So whenever there's like, a low point or an emotional day, or, you're feeling a little stressed out more than normal, there's generally a price tag associated with how to make yourself feel better. And like I said, a lot of people are going to look at that spa package or the massage or, you know, that pint of ice cream or maybe, you know, a 6-pack. And, you know, I get it. And we do support some of those things.
Yeah.
But I hate to burst your bubble. That is not all that there is to self-care.
Totally.
And, you know, I'm not saying you can't go out and buy yourself nice things or eat a treat or have a treat once in a while. And actually, we're actually believers in that. You know, we don't like to restrict, but there's a difference in treating yourself or, you know, doing an activity that calms you down, makes you feel good for the moment, or eating food that makes you feel good, and actually taking care of the root of the problem.
Yeah, right? That's it. Sometimes this means really tackling the root of the problems and doing the work that it takes. It might take some effort to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
On a level, right? Yeah, it's not always just like, you know, retail therapy. Shopping is a big one, right? That's another one that comes up.
That's what I mean. Like, it has a price tag on there.
Yeah.
What sort of fluff can I buy myself to make me feel good? It's real. It's a real thing. We all got it.
Yeah. So yeah, I really believe that when we redefine self-care like this, it does two really important things. It becomes more effective by virtue of being deeper and more meaningful than just like buying the scone or whatever. and two, it becomes more accessible. Like retail therapy and yoga classes aren't available to all of us. And so doing these things that, you know, we'll talk about, and it's going to be a little more of a broad overview because it can get just like, so it's different for everyone, right? There are some kind of general practices that we all need, but, you know, some of the things we talk about, you know, maybe it's deep breathing, like scheduling deep breathing, connecting with people, reading a book, listening to a podcast, going for a walk. You know, those are all forms of self-care and bettering oneself. We've talked about some of these things, you know, amping or journaling, the 60-second reset, right? The whole stress buster challenge. Those are kind of quick things that we can do. But then there are those things that might require a little more thought and work that will have big, powerful impacts on our lives, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a big part of that is like, I think a big struggle with that for a lot of people is, well, where do I start?
Yeah.
Right? And I really believe that there are, and I think you'd agree with me, like, especially because you and I are both like, I'm mind, body, spirit, and you are heart, soul, body, or whatever. But it's the same exact idea. And they're made up of, I think, 5 different areas of what creates our realm of self-care, right? So we have physical self-care. We're big believers in that, obviously. There's also social self-care, which is real. Emotional self-care, which is a big one. A lot of people skip over that. Spiritual self-care, which doesn't necessarily mean faith, but it can also mean faith. But that's more about like taking care of who you are at your core.
Very subjective, very different from personal.
Right, very much so. But it's who you are at your core. It's what makes you you. And then there's intellectual, the realm of intellectuality. And I know a lot of people struggle to find where to start with self-care and actually diving into those areas that, you know, it can be tough, but when you do it, it actually makes it a bit easier to know what to do next.
Right. Yeah. Some areas might need more than others. Why don't I jump in? I'll start with the physical part of this. And it's, you know, it can be relatively obvious, I guess, you know, and I think we can simplify this a lot. You know, we tend to make it more complicated than it is, but your physical health, right, is taking care of your physical wellness, your overall health. And, you know, maybe you suffer from fatigue, right? You'll notice these things, fatigue. Maybe you need to get more sleep. You may feel sluggish or unmotivated, right? And that can be your nutrition, the aches and pains. You might need to move more. And it doesn't have to be, the 45-minute hit, like, blow it up workout. Like we all have some unavoidable things like injuries that we might be dealing with, but a lot of this stuff can be remedied or at least helped. Get up and move around for your body's sake, or to get some, endorphins flowing. We've talked quite a bit about that in the past. It's not just, for your body's sake either. You'll see how these things are all tied together. But it can help all of those things and more, right? We know this. Your gut health. Studies have shown us that 90% of our serotonin is produced in the gut, and serotonin is our mood stabilizer, right? Like our everything is okay neurotransmitter. Without that, that's a big deal. Like no happiness without the happiness chemicals.
Seriously.
So your gut health is really, really important. And so how you eat counts. And I think for me, when I know that, like, it makes it easier to eat well and to make good decisions that way. Like, this food is literally going to make me feel better. My brain, emotionally, I'll feel better. And we're going to get into that more. Nick, why don't we jump into the social part here?
Just before we jump through there, just to like relate to that, I was just thinking before we hopped on, like, I want to start doing these standing up again, because I actually am quite uncomfortable sitting. I don't know how much you noticed, but I fidget a lot, and it's because I'm uncomfortable. So yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing this. And that's part of that physical self-care.
That's part of it. Yeah, that's part of it. It's all connected very much, right? And you're gonna hear me say that a whole bunch today.
Yeah. So the social self-care is all about community building. It's all about developing a really good network of support. And I'm actually truly a huge believer in this. I know if Aiden's out there, I'm going to give him a little call out, because he and I just had a really big chat about this. Yeah. And I'm actually a bit of an introvert, believe it or not. So like, it's a little tough for me to implement this on my own side. But this part of our lives it's impacted in a huge way. And especially the last, year and a half or 2 years. So we all need to be proactive about it. And maybe you're doing really well with that already, but if you haven't, when was the last time you just reached out to a friend just to say, hey, and I'm not talking about those friends that are a really good time downtown. I'm talking about the friends that really fulfill you in some way. Maybe you've been sitting alone in silence for too long, like YouTube and Facebook and like all the social scrolling. That's real, but it's poisonous. So, if you're finding that you're disconnected from other people, that can be a sign of your social self-care needs to be worked on a little bit. And it's so powerful. And it gives us a sense of purpose in life, right?
Yeah, that connection is super important.
Absolutely.
And I want to also say that, there's another side to this, and we're going to get much deeper into kind of the overarching topic about this, but pardon me, but caring for yourself might also, mean doing something that's a little harder, right? And sometimes we need to evaluate our relationships.
Yeah.
Boundaries, right? And we're going to get into boundaries a lot. This has been a really tough one for me over the years, but I've had to really detach from some people who I cared about in my life, because they really weren't good for me.
Yeah.
And so evaluating that sometimes is sort of that deeper part of self-care that can be a little bit tougher and a little bit more daunting.
It's really tough. It's really tough, but it's real.
Absolutely. And I think this is like kind of a perfect segue, though. Like, the social part and the emotional part are just like so tied together.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's jump into that.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do you care if I just hop on that one?
Dive in, please.
So yeah, because I have such a significant passion for mental and emotional well-being. This one hits home for me. It's real. It's very real for me. Probably just because of my own experiences in it. But when our stress levels rise, our mental health literally can take a toll. There are cues and all sorts of practices for mental self-care, but basically just do some like check-ins on yourself a few times a day. It doesn't have to be all the time, but like take a minute and be like, okay, why am I feeling so anxious right now? Why do I hate this driver in front of me? What's going on? What's actually going on there? Is it the driver or is it something else? Or better yet, have somebody, like I was talking about earlier, have somebody in your support network do it for you. You can reach out with them and literally ask them to just, hey, would you check in and ask how I'm doing from time to time? People want to help. People inherently want to help other people. And I honestly, Brandon just did it for me the other day. I sent him a very dry message and he's like, hey, are you feeling irritated? Like, why don't you go for a walk? I wasn't feeling irritated. It was like a very straight, blunt, forward, like, I don't care what you have to say about this. This is what it's going to be, But I understood where he was coming from, and I actually did. I was able to go for a walk because he noticed something that maybe I didn't notice. So getting to know the difference between something that needs to be taken care of right now and an issue that maybe can wait for a little while. To practice that little bit of self-awareness can be really big. And to understand more of that, actually, we have a big chunk of it, I think, in the Stress Buster workshop.
Yeah.
You can find that by going to the guide section of this group.
Yeah.
So yeah, please do so.
Yeah. Nick, why don't we jump into the spiritual part too?
Yeah. Because those are definitely tied together. Sure.
Kind of going that way. Yeah. Go ahead and jump in.
So yeah. Okay. So we were talking about spiritual stuff a little bit ago. So, again, you can think this is faith, but it doesn't have to be faith-based, but it also could be faith-based. And it also doesn't have to be very demanding. Although, like meditation, I think personally, the idea of meditation can be demanding. Sit still, breathe, and don't think about anything for 25 minutes. That's a lot. That's a lot for me.
Go to another plane of existence.
Yeah. Right? I can't. There's no way I can do that. No, but I can do it for 60 seconds, and that is literally, it's very significant for me. It makes me feel reset, and that's what that 60-second reset. I think Brandon mentioned it a little bit ago.
Yeah, totally.
So whether it's I don't know if you've heard of body mapping. Whether it's body mapping or journaling, which I'm huge on, setting affirmations and repeating them. Or connecting by going for a walk in the woods or gardening, or it could be something as simple as getting lost in music, something that really feeds you, something that makes you wow, this is what it's about. This is what I should have every day.
Yeah,
that's the spiritual side. I think it feeds who you are, your core.
Totally. Yeah, I find people really struggle with this idea.
Yeah, I think so too.
Spirituality versus religion. A lot of people I know are well, I'm not religious. I don't believe in any of that, and so I'm not.
No, I've actually
spiritual side.
Yeah, I've actually been on dates in the past where they're like, "Well, are you spiritual?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And they're like, "Well, what denomination are you?" I'm like, "Well, hold on a minute. It doesn't have to mean that,
Right.
I'm not saying that I'm not, but
totally different questions, though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Really, obviously related.
But it also, it goes both ways. I see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a religious guy at all. And many of my really close dear friends are. But I think it's extremely important to recognize a power greater than myself. And I'm not talking about necessarily a deity in the sky, but for me, right, it's nature. It's the complexities of the universe, the power of community and human connection. Those are kind of my spiritual connections. Those things are greater than me. They're bigger than me. And when I can tap into those things, they give me, that provides me a sense of reassurance, gives me some peace of mind. And often those things sort of provide me answers to the things that I struggle with. And I think I think we all need to connect to something bigger than ourselves. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I was just up north visiting some friends for the weekend, and you know, addressing that social that social part. But I
for it.
yeah, very much so. Like I took a little time every morning. I got up before everybody else, and I took a minute to be by myself and stand in the redwoods and just kind of be in awe of something so much bigger than me. Like, I mean, it was
Literally, physically, yeah, all that.
yeah, physically, but like, yeah, it's like overpowering, like how much. Um,
That's
this
really cool, man. I actually,
yeah,
like,
powerful.
I actually got chills from that. Like I put myself in that situation. That's cool because I've
You
only
know
been
that
there once. I've only
feeling?
been there once.
Oh man, we gotta go. We're going. But also every week, like I make a point to be as close as I can with my community, right? And kind of absorb that energy. And again, right, that can fall into the social category as well. And I hope you guys are seeing how these things really overlap and connect, but all really have their own defined space as well. That might be kind of a woo-woo thing to say, but I don't know. I'm sticking with it.
Well, let's jump to the next one. I think it's the last one. I don't remember everything we talked about.
Yeah, I think we're close.
The intellectual piece. Yeah. Okay. So this is one that's overlooked a lot, I think. Especially like in my experience doing what I do and doing what I've done for a long period of time. I think people overlook this quite often. But taking time to invest in your personal self, in your personal development, I think is too often put on the back burner. And I'm very guilty of this. I doesn't matter. But I know that, like, you know, reading articles that is unrelated to your job. I'm just going to try to make this one quick. Picking a workbook, cutting back on TV, and then making it like replacing that time with something that helps you develop who you are. It helps you develop skills. It helps you develop an understanding or a different perspective on something or someone else other than what you're always invested in. Something just a little bit different. And even if it's something that's the same, it's just different than you've looked at before.
Sure.
You know, I think that's really it's the development of self, I think, is really I think it's passed over quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's like pursuit of knowledge, you know, I think that really does a lot for us. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, could be taking a class or just reading about something that really interests you.
Yeah, those are definitely good examples.
Debating a friend. It could be even something simple, Sudoku or crossword, right? Like challenging your brain, whatever it is. But challenging your mind does a lot for us and makes us feel good. It's stimulating and develops new neural pathways in the brain. It keeps us, you know, vivacious, motivated, gives us energy. It really does. I think it's really, like you said, often overlooked. And I do that to myself. Like I'll only like look up stuff related to my job, which I love. But at the same time, I need to learn things that are interesting and strange and kind of wild and challenge my mind. And like you said, perspective. Absolutely. I think that's hugely important. It does a lot for us. So guys.
Oh, Brandon, I think we lost you. I don't know if it was on my end or not. Yep, I don't know. Well, I don't know what happened, but if you are there, if everybody's still there, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up. But anyway, yeah, if you understand, I think this is where Brandon was going. If you understand kind of like where, you know, where we're coming from with this, if you understand that the importance of it, you know, give us a thumbs up, do something, drop in the comments, let us know you're on board with this notion. I know this one's a little bit deeper. But self-care isn't just buying yourself the fluff, right? So, yeah, looks like it's just me. Brandon's gone though. So anyway, I actually want to revisit this one myself, and I'm sure, I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure Brandon would like to as well. But how does, basically this is a bunch of self-care is, I'm totally thrown off here by this, but I know that self-care is a big part of it is setting boundaries for yourself. So how does a boundary work to trace back to self-care? And I know for starters, boundaries, it'll fit into all those 5 dimensions. A physical boundary could look like not wanting to shake hands with somebody, or it could look like maybe not wanting to give a hug for the same reason. Where a social boundary, oh, Brandon's back. There he is.
I don't know what happened, but
I don't sweat. I jumped out into, I'm talking about boundaries now. So,
oh, excellent. Yeah, perfect.
So I was just talking about physical boundaries, how they may not look like, whatever, it doesn't matter what they look like. But a physical boundary is like, not shaking hands or not giving somebody a hug.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, a social boundary could be limiting who you want to socialize with, just like what you were talking about a bit ago.
Gotcha.
Where,
yeah,
where you're making a conscious decision to not spend time with somebody who you love them and they're an absolute blast, but they ultimately don't really fulfill you or what you're trying to achieve in your life. And we've all got that type of friend, or friends, plural for that matter. So the point of this is, setting boundaries is self-care. It's big. That's it. Setting boundaries is self-care, hands down. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Agreed.
When we lack boundaries, we take on things that we don't necessarily have space for. We don't have time for. We don't have the energy for. We don't have the money for, and we'll do it all anyway. And we'll spend all that stuff on something that doesn't move us forward in the direction that we want to be going. We're spending it on stuff that we don't need or we don't necessarily want. It's like one big barrier. It's okay to say no, right? I mean, that's a big one. We've all heard of lots of times, but there's tons of barriers. So, oftentimes without barriers, we'll end up getting trapped in draining relationships and in difficult situations.
Yeah.
We'll bring different levels of emotion, but big ones that I see a lot are anger, stress, and just straight out fatigue. They're tired. I don't have any motivation for the rest of my life because I got all these other people's stuff going on.
Agreed. I don't know. I ducked out for a minute, so I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. You are a little bit blocky, but I think it's okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, this thing is being real choppy over here. So we're going to jump out of here, I think. But yeah, I'm with you. Not having boundaries leaves us prone to fatigue and overworking and ourselves, and not allowing us to prioritize the other things that are really important, and these other areas of self-care. None of them can happen if we don't have boundaries, and we don't respect those things. We don't set boundaries and sort of force others. I don't want to use the word force, but make other people respect our boundaries as well. Like that's a big deal. You've got to say no. Sometimes you really have to say no, not just to other people, but to yourself also. So I think, boundaries are a really important part of, how we treat ourselves and how we view ourselves, how we prioritize ourselves. That's what this is really all about, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to leave it at that for my part.
I think that, you summed it up really well. I think, basically you have to set a space for you to tend to your needs, your real needs, not just the ones that you want, but the ones that you need to have.
Right.
And think of it like an opportunity to shift your habits or your mindset. So it might mean that you're going to get better sleep, or you're going to mindfully and purposefully leave work at work, or you're going to stop buying that pint of ice cream. But it needs to, you're carving out that specific chunk of purposefulness to tend to yourself. and your absolute real needs. So
yeah, I think it's good to start kind of small with these things. And
maybe what you need to do is take the time to actually figure out what those real needs are, right?
Yeah. And sometimes even that, like sometimes we know, I mean, most of us know what some of these needs are. Some of these places we need to like kind of give ourselves boundaries are. And I think it's, you know, for me, when I map all of it out and I'm like, oh, I need to fix this, and this, like it becomes overwhelming for me. I'm like, yeah, I know I need to like probably cut down on the pasta this week. Doable. Doable. Or like, oh, I didn't leave myself enough time to like even go on, you know, a walk last week. Like that. Okay. I'm going to set aside a time. Good. 15 minutes every day. I'm going to at least get out of the house for a minute. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Like as time goes on and we kind of get in that habit, we want to build on that and make those things a little bit bigger, dig deeper into that stuff. And yes, eventually end up, you know, maybe putting up some of those social boundaries, defining some of those social boundaries that are really, really hard for a lot of us. So, yeah, sorry, things have been like a little bit thrown off at the end here with technical issues. What I really do want to know though is like who else out there really struggles with boundaries? I think all of us do. So, you know, raise your hand if that's you, or feel free to ask a question. Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? Setting boundaries. It's always a practice. At this point, I don't feel like I struggle with it because I'm just, you know, pretty mindful of it. And it's always kind of there. And I have a good, you know, support system, right? Nick, you and I are always kind of helping each other with.
Yeah, we keep each other in check for sure.
A lot of these things. Yeah. And it's great. It's really, really been
super grateful. Yeah.
I think
I do want to just, I see Maria chimed in. She said, no one is going to do it for you. You have to time out or carve out time for yourself and defend that time. And that's honestly, that's everything we've been talking about.
100%, 100%. Absolutely. I think one of the big things I really want people to come away from this with is that everyone has access to these things.
Doesn't have to have a price tag.
Exactly. Everyone has access to these things. It doesn't have to have a price tag. These should be simple things. It does look different for everybody, but it's not just what you can buy, you know, when you're in need, and it doesn't have to be restrictive. It's also really about how you invest in your resources. It's about putting aside that time, just a little bit, your effort and your energy into meaningful and purposeful things. And it can't happen without some of those boundaries, putting those boundaries up. It kind of starts there. And you know, sometimes you do need another person to help you out with that. And that is 100% okay. You know, we help people with that. We do a lot of that, right? You can leave a comment here.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do these for. We want to have conversations with people. It's real for us. This is literally whatever fills my bucket.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you can reach out to us, or you can reach out to the group in general, make a post here, and you know, that's part of what we're doing here. I also want to iterate that, you know, you really have control. You don't have to take on super deep, meaningful work every day. You know, like I said earlier, our self-care looks different from day to day. And some days we're overwhelmed, and that's fine. You know, that's okay to kind of step back and take the less deep route. Maybe it's not that day for, like, you know, calling up somebody or not calling up somebody and setting that boundary. And you can get to work tomorrow, because this is real stuff, and addressing your foundation will make all the rest of the other areas of your life stronger. Right. So, we've got some big stuff coming up soon, right, Nick? Some big things.
Big things happening. Big things in the I don't know, coming up.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned for that. We're going to be, you know, we're always cooking up new things to do, and you know, trying to help you guys make room for change, and wrap your heads around it and embrace it, and right, moving forward, right?
Yes, always forward momentum. Embrace the change that's coming. It's going to be good. It's really going to be good. But actually, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, we're excited. Anything else you want to say today, Nick?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Awesome. Well, then let's get out of here. You guys, please keep doing what you do in this group. We love seeing you guys, posting questions, commenting on each other's things. Keep coming here and lifting each other up. I know I say that every time, but I really do think that that's the best part about this space, is that it's a really positive space where that's exactly
social. It's the social community. It's the social connection. It's real, and you need to take advantage of it. And what you put in is what you're going to get back.
Certainly. Yeah. And share it, please. Invite some friends if you think this place is beneficial for you. By the way, like, some of you might not even know what we're talking about right now. The Drop the Fat, Not the Tacos Facebook group, because today we decided to stream this one to some other
different areas.
I think we also have our podcast going. So if you're listening, that's where a lot of us are hanging out, is the Facebook group, Drop the Fat, Not the Tacos. Thank you guys for making this place a special place, though, to listeners and to our viewers and the people who are in our group. It really, really does, like Nick likes to say, it fills our buckets. And that's the truth. So we're going to jump out of here. Nick, take us home.